You say, I know my worth. You say, I have standards. You say, I will never settle. Beautiful. I agreed. But what if the standard you created to protect yourself are actually keeping you from finding the kind of love you think you want? What if you are not single because everybody is bad? What if you are not single because there are no good men? What if you are not single because there are no good women? What if some of your expectations have become so unrealistic that nobody can qualify? And before you understand me, I am not telling you to lower your standard. I am asking you to examine them, because there is a difference between having standard and demanding perfection. There is a difference between knowing your worth and believing everybody must prove themselves worthy of you. And there is a difference between refusing to settle and refusing to compromise on anything. So today, on the Love Lab podcast with Emmanuel Hannah, we are asking one uncomfortable question. Are your standards protecting you or keeping you single? Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back to the Love Lab podcast with Emmanuel Hannah, where we have honest conversation about love, relationships, marriage, family, and emotional growth. If this is your first time here, please subscribe, because we don't just talk about relationships here. We examine them. And today's conversation is important because I know somebody is already preparing to fight me. Some people hear the word high standard and immediately said, never lower your standard. And someone else hears it and says, these women are too demanding. Or men don't want women with standard anymore. But I don't want us to make this a men versus women conversation. I want us to make it a wisdom conversation, because both men and women can have healthy relationships, healthy standard, and both men and women can have unrealistic expectations. Let's establish something first. Having standard is not a problem. Please, don't let anybody manipulate you into believing that wanting a good partner makes you difficult. You should have standard for character. You should care about honesty. You should care about respect. You should care about emotional maturity. You should care about responsibility. You should care about faithfulness. You should care about how someone treats people. You should care about whether you feel emotionally and physically safe with that person. Those are not unreasonable standards. In fact, some standards can save you from entering a relationship that will destroy your peace. The problem isn't standard. The problem is when we don't know what our standard actually are. Let's say you say, I want a financially responsible partner. That is reasonable. But if you say he must already own 3 houses, 2 cars, have millions in his accounts, travels every year, and still have unlimited time for me, my dear, we need to have another conversation, because you may have moved from standard to preference, to fantasy without noticing. There is nothing wrong with wanting a wealthy partner, but ask yourself, is this a non-negotiable value, or is this simply the lifestyle I desire? There is a difference, and men do this too. I want a submissive woman. Okay, but what exactly does that mean? Does it mean respectful, cooperative, peaceful? Or does it mean she must have no options, no boundaries, and no voice? Define your standard before demanding them from someone else. Now, let's talk about something we cannot ignore: social media. Every day, you see somebody's relationship highlights. Somebody's husband buys a brand new car. Somebody's wife receives an expensive surprise. Somebody is traveling. Somebody is proposing in a luxury location. Somebody is showing flowers, jewelry, designer bags, and romantic dinners. And you start thinking, this is what love is supposed to look like. No. That is what somebody highlight reels look like. Yes, it is the real. You don't know what happens when the camera goes off. Don't turn somebody else's public moment into the minimum requirement for your own relationship. You may reject a genuinely good person because they cannot reproduce the lifestyle you saw on Instagram. And years later, you may discover that the person who had the money you wanted didn't have the character you needed. Money matters. Compatibility matters. Attraction matters. But character matters too. This is where I want everybody to look in the mirror. Some people are searching for a partner who is already completely finished. Perfect career, perfect body, perfect finances, perfect communication, perfect family, perfect emotional intelligence, no past, no mistakes, no weaknesses, no baggage. And then you say, I know what I deserve. My question is, what are you bringing to the table? Because sometimes we have a 10-page list of what we want, but we haven't spent one page asking ourselves, what kind of partner am I? You want emotional maturity. Are you emotionally mature? You want honesty. Are you honest? You want loyalty. Are you loyal? You want someone financially responsible. Are you financially responsible? You want someone who communicates. Can you communicate when you are angry? You cannot demand qualities from another person that you refuse to develop in yourselves. Here is another trap. Sometimes the person who gives you the strongest butterflies isn't the person who gives you the healthiest relationship. You are attracted. The chemistry is crazy. You can't stop thinking about them. Your heart is racing and you think this must be love. Not necessarily. Sometimes it is attraction. Sometimes it is anxiety. Sometimes it is uncertainty. Sometimes it is the excitement of trying to win someone who is emotionally unavailable. A healthy relationship may not always begin with fireworks. Sometimes it begins with peace, respect, consistency, friendship, safety, understanding. Don't reject peace because chaos feels more exciting. Your standard should help you recognize what is unacceptable. They should not make you incapable of recognizing what is good. There are people who reject everybody because nobody is perfect. One person is too short. Another is too tall. One doesn't earn enough. Another earns too much. One is too quiet. Another talks too much. One is divorced. Another has children. One isn't romantic enough. Another is too emotional. One is not ambitious enough. Another is too ambitious. And eventually, nobody qualifies. At some point, you have to ask yourself whether you are protecting your peace or protecting yourselves from intimacy. If you are still watching me at this point, I believe this conversation is speaking to something deeper in you. So please, don't just watch and disappear. Subscribe to the Love Lab podcast with Emmanuel Hannah. We are building a community where we can talk honestly about love without turning every conversation into a gender war. Here, we are going to challenge men. We are going to challenge women. We are going to challenge relationships. And sometimes, we are going to challenge ourselves. Because the goal isn't to prove that men are wrong or women are wrong. The goal is to become wiser about love. So, hit that subscribe button and I want you to comment one thing for me. What is one standard you will never compromise on in a relationship? Let's see what matters most to people. Now, here is where it gets deeper. Sometimes, what we call standard are actually wounds. I will never date somebody who has ever hurt anybody. I will never trust anybody completely. I don't need anybody. All men shit. All women are after money. Nobody can be trusted. Nye, 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 nye. Those aren't necessarily standards. Sometimes they are defense mechanisms. Maybe somebody broke your heart. Maybe your parents had a terrible marriage. Maybe your previous relationship destroyed your confidence. And now, you've created wounds designed to make sure nobody can ever get close enough to hurt you again. The problem? Those same walls that keep bad people out can sometimes keep good people out too. So, what should you do? Don't throw away your standard. Refine them. Separate your non-negotiables from your preferences. Separate character from lifestyle. Separate compatibility from chemistry. Separate wisdom from fear. Separate self-respect from pride and ask yourself, is this requirement helping me choose wisely or am I using it to avoid vulnerability? That is a powerful question because sometimes the person you are rejecting isn't actually wrong for you. They are simply not packaged the way you imagine. And sometimes the person you are desperate to keep, doesn't meet your standard at all. Don't let loneliness make you abandon your standards. But don't let pride make you reject good people either. And here's the question I really want you to take away from this video. Do you want the right person or do you want the perfect person? Because those are two completely different things. The right person will still have flaws. They will annoy you sometimes. They will make mistakes. They will have weaknesses. You will have weaknesses too. The goal isn't to find somebody without flaws. The goal is to find somebody whose values, character, direction, and capacity for growth are compatible with yours. And then you both grow. So, are your standards protecting you or keeping you single? Only you can answer that. But today, I want you to sit with yourself and ask, what are my actual non-negotiables? What are simply preferences? What expectations did social media teach me? What standard came from wisdom? And what standard came from pain? Because you don't need to lower yourself to find love. But you may need to become honest with yourself about what you are looking for. You don't need to accept disrespect just because you don't want to be alone. You don't need to marry somebody who doesn't align with your values. You don't need to abandon your boundaries. But you also don't need to demand perfection from another human being while giving yourself permission to be imperfect. Love is not about finding someone who checks every box. Sometimes it is about finding someone whose add values and direction makes sense with yours. and then building something beautiful together. So don't lower your standard. Raise your self-awareness. Don't demand perfection. Look for character. Don't chase an imaginary person. Learn to recognize a good one. And above all, don't let the fear of choosing wrongly prevent you from ever choosing at all. Because there is a difference between being single because you are wisely waiting and being single because nobody can never meet an impossible version you've created in your head. You know your words. Keep your boundaries. Choose wisely. But leave rooms for a real human being to be human. If this conversation challenge you, don't just keep it to yourself. Like this video, subscribe to the Love Lab podcast with Emmanuel Hannah. Share this with someone who is currently dating, preparing for marriage, or constantly saying, nobody is good enough for me. And before you leave, answer this in the comments. What is one relationship standard you believe nobody should compromise on? I want to read your answers. And if this video made you uncomfortable, maybe that is not a bad thing. Sometimes growth begins when we are willing to question even the things we strongly believe. Until our next conversation, protect your heart, respect yourself, choose wisely, and remember, the goal isn't to find a perfect person. The goal is to build a healthy love with the right person. This is the Love Lab podcast with Emmanuel Anna. I will see you in the next conversation. Bye.